Hey everybody, this is the spring of, we're in 2024 right now, but we are releasing the first of the 2023 vintage. So this is whites coming out, really exciting because we had a really great year in vintage growing year 2023. There's been a lot of talk about it. Everything came in amazing. And this is just really fun because these are the first ones that are coming out. And then we got a good long wait because the reds are typically closer to that 2-year aging period before they release. So there will be a gap in time, but we're lucky there too, because in between will be 22 reds coming out. And I gotta tell you, they're super impressive also. So we got lots of good stuff coming. I'll tell you about this vintage, these wines, and some other things that are going on because I'm really excited. There's a lot of different stuff happening. So first of all, the quick summary is the 23 growing season was just everything that you could have hoped for as a wine grower here in Virginia. We got the spring rains as we effectively need to get the vines established, their canopies up, fruit set, everything healthy and on track. And then we just went dry. And it went super dry to the point where in some of the rocky, shallowest spots that we have in the vineyard, we actually lost a few vines here and there, a few in the Chenin Blanc and definitely some in the younger, newer Albariño block. But fortunately, just the right amount of rain came in at just the right moments and overall kept the vines on track. So we have every bit the concentration levels that you've ever seen impressively come through before in Virginia, grape growing and winemaking. Definitely comparable to 2019 in terms of concentration and intensity. The difference, which I absolutely love and appreciate, is they're not those through the roof alcohols that we saw from 2019. So these are just the best balanced wines, vintage year 2023 that we've maybe seen. I don't know. Don't want to say other ones aren't as awesome, but this was a good situation. So really fun for these to start to come out. This release includes 5 wines. So very quickly, that's Grüner Veltliner, Dry Rosé, Albariño, Chenin Blanc, and the Roussanne. So to go through those quickly, bit by bit, we've got them separated over here into 2 groups. You're gonna see one of the cool things going on as you look at the menu. We just did a complete menu revision. In some ways it looks the same, in some ways it's very different. But we're really starting to break apart the 2 different sites so that we're diving all the deeper into this terroir concept. Since we make the native yeast wines that are truly reflective of the site and true terroir, really capturing the characteristics, as we say, of that grape on that site in that year, I really wanted to start to split the 2 sites apart now that we have more different varietals coming on to work with. So it's good timing and it's fun and exciting. So we're also moving around some of when the wines are being released and they're aging. So the way this story goes, right here, right now, this release starts with Grüner Veltliner. Great, very versatile white wine. Everybody loves it, whether you like those, brighter, fresher, lighter wines, or you like those fuller, richer, more textured wines. It's really interesting because the Grüner comes in right there in the middle, makes everybody happy. It's really cool what the native yeast and natural process that we do does to this grape, because so often in the conventional wine world, these are just like lean and kind of piercing and edgy whites, Grüner Veltliner. But in the natural wine world, and ours show this, you get this really rich, full, textured, more complex Grüner Veltliner. So I just think our process brings out so much more than people are used to in this grape. It was planted at the Seven Oaks site over in Purcellville because it is very cold tolerant, winter hardy. So it's surviving the winters in a way that some of the other grapes we have there didn't. So this is key, but it's also ripening wonderfully. So Mark Skinner over there with Oscar day-to-day running that vineyard, that's the team on the ground over there, doing an awesome job, and this fruit comes in great. The picking is you get just a little bit of that green to gold transition in the ripening of the fruit. So you get some of those citrusy characters, but you also get some of those tropical characteristics come in. I just love it. Absolutely awesome wine. Then next one in this release, following the single vineyard focused ideology, is we jump right into the dry rosé. So this is Petit Verdot from specifically what we call the East Block at the Seven Oaks Vineyard. So it's a piece of Petit Verdot that's completely separate from the rest of the reds. It's right on the edge of the Chardonnay, right by an open field. And we've really found that this block works amazingly well to pick it, again, right as we're turning from green to red, as there's still a few green berries here and there in it. But we get all that awesome vivid fruit flavor, but you have that really bright, refreshing acidity to it. I love that in rosé, that we can get full flavor and lots of freshness. It's a little hard to see with the lighting we have. It's not as dark as it looks in there, but the color is absolutely beautiful. Still doesn't show up right in the video, but that's okay. So this, as usual, is fruit dedicated to that block. So it's not bleed off, Saignée, none of that astringent type of rosé. We do soak on the skins for a day to get some of that skin characteristic brought into the wine, gives it the rosé color. But it also then goes on to press the whole pulp of the berry, which, more similar than to white wines, gives you that really fresh, smooth characteristic. Absolutely love it. On the regular menu, there would be Chardonnay slotted in between them so that those flow nicely. You'll see that when you come in and look at the regular menu, and that will then define the Seven Oaks Vineyard. And we're going to come back to this, but Chardonnay is getting delayed to release in the fall. So that one's getting moved for good reason. We'll talk about that. Then we're going to quickly go through our three wines from the estate vineyard that are coming out right now. First one following suit right here is Albariño. We've been waiting a long time for it. New block after having cleared more forest. Vines grow slow when we do that. It took them 4 years to even get to their first crop. Definitely not a full crop, but enough to work with, so that's really pleasant. It's 70 cases. Actually, going back a step, the rosé is only 70 cases also. That crop was down a little bit. So that one you want to get. Albariño you want to get because it's going to go quick. It's awesome. Same thing. We're picking it right when it's at that transition from green to gold. Some green berries in clusters, some gold berries in clusters. You get that super bright, vivid character that we love in Albariño, but we get that full, rich texture, depth characteristic. Great Albariño flavor, aroma, all of it. Classic. I think it's really cool. And I think it's also great to, again, see what the natural process brings out, because so many wines like Albariño, Sauvignon Blanc, they're all specific commercial yeast selections to really heighten or amplify certain characteristics. And that's what people expect, but that's not necessarily what the wine is. So we like to show the way things actually really are, which to me is all the more lovely, elegant, balanced, and interesting, and has everything that you're looking for and expecting, just not in kind of a weird, fabricated or influenced style and approach. So it's super cool. It is stainless steel produced. Again, really refreshing, really just awesome, vivid, fun. Next, we go into the Chenin Blanc. The Chenin is sometime in stainless steel tanks, spends a little bit of time in steel barrels to try and develop it a little bit more with lees contact before it goes back into the tank, settles out, then bottles. So this one actually bottles a little bit later in the winter. The Albariño, Rosé, and Grüner Veltliner bottled very early in the winter. So Chenin's a little bit later in the winter. Roussanne will be a little bit later in the winter. This was a great year for Chenin Blanc. I feel like I've got some of the, just balancing act in the cellar back on track compared to a few crazy years going through COVIDs and weather patterns and things all over the place. But I'm really happy with where things are at right now. So the Chenin has a little bit of that 2019, like full, rich, textured, bigger style. I don't know if that's the right words for it, but it still has that fresh character that came in with the 2020s that were actually a cooler season. It's got all the good things going on. It is right on track, spot on. Absolutely love it. Everything I could wish for. Last one here is right here, is the Roussanne. So awesome year for Roussanne. Ideal ripeness, again, picking this a little bit on the later side. There's 2 blocks of Roussanne now. The original one's in the backfield. There's a smaller block that we have right here in the front field. So a little more complexity, I think, coming from having those 2 pieces to work with, and brought the yields up just a little bit. The front block is not a huge cropping type of block because it's a super droughty, sandy, gritty soil. So it doesn't hold a lot of nutrient or moisture. So the vines grow kind of small, and the crop is kind of small, but it ripens absolutely great. So it picked a little bit earlier. So the cool news is, while this one's absolutely awesome right now, this was produced at what would have conceptually been 100 cases, but a pallet, the way I'm getting them, is 96 cases, and this is 96 cases of Roussanne. That is releasing half of it right now. 48 cases are being released now, and that's a small enough amount to where that's going to go pretty quick. But I've always said that this is a bottle aging white wine, so it develops amazingly, and usually it's the type of thing where right when it's getting ready to sell out is right when I think it's starting to get really good. So we're going to make a jump on aging with that one, and I'm literally just holding back half of it. The other 48 cases that can come back out reserved for re-release next spring 2025, and that jumps us into a full year aging program on the Roussanne going forward, which will bring out amazing complexities and give this grape and wine everything it deserves. It's interesting because I don't feel comfortable barrel aging it for the length of time that Chardonnay barrel ages. I feel better with Roussanne bottling it a little bit younger and then really just letting it bottle age out. So that's really cool and interesting. So that's the basic quick concept on these wines. The other things I mentioned that are going on is that shift towards the terroir expression, or the site-specific wines. That's showing up here with 2 and 3 from the Seven Oaks Vineyard over in Purcellville and the Estate Vineyard here, of which we would slot again right in between these 2, the Grüner and the Rosé. Chardonnay is going to sandwich in there, and you would actually taste through 2 or 3 with the Chardonnay from that site as like mini flight, and then jump to the Estate Vineyard and go through however many of those as the Estate Vineyard flight, and then move on in the menu to the ancient techniques and explorations, and then move on to what will be Seven Oaks Reds, separated from Arterra Estate Vineyard Reds. So this is going to show up in 2 ways. Some of it is based on seasonality being more focused on, and also some of it focused on appropriate or improved aging. So we're going to, fair warning, pay attention, 3 releases per year. And this is all in your best interest as people who enjoy Arterra wines, because this is going to overcome a lot of things that I had been grappling with for years. And these are ideas that, being a long-winded wine business guy that's always thinking 2, 3, 4 years out, that like these ideas have been in place and in motion for a long time and are now just starting to show up. So when we divide the menu up, we will be separating the Seven Oaks Vineyard and the Arterra Estate Vineyard, both whites and reds. But the spring release will stay looking these 5 wines in the future, adding that extra age into the Roussanne program. Really nice for like spring, summer focused wines. Great 5 wines to come out, and 5's a really good number for a release, so it's not too overwhelming. The fall release is going to take a bit of a shift. That is going to take advantage of the fact that there's some new varietals coming on board, but we're going to focus on fall season wines, because sometimes it's still really hot right at the beginning of September, coming off of August. Not everybody's thinking big heavy reds yet. We're not always ready for it. So we are going to bring out the most seasonally appropriate wines at that point, which coincidentally is a perfect fit to keep that fall release in September focused specifically on the Seven Oaks Vineyard site. The wines there are absolutely lovely and beautiful, how they cater to this. They're very fresh. They've got great depth and complexity, little bit more of a floral lean I find consistently coming off of the Seven Oaks site. So look forward to the fall being the Chardonnay and the Amphora Chardonnay as the mainstays, and there's more to talk about with changes I'm making in the Amphora Chardonnay program that are really cool, but not to talk about now. And then we're going to have effectively a focus on 3 reds coming off of the Seven Oaks site in the September release, which is going to be Cabernet Franc, Blaufränkisch, and Zweigalt. And the Blaufränkisch and Zweigalt are additional to Austrian reds that are more cold hardy that we needed there for that purpose and point in time. And we'll have an initial celebratory release with this kickoff of new varietals from the Seven Oaks site of a Seven Oaks blend that is Petit Verdot, Blaufränkisch, and Zweigalt. So that's just a one-time thing coming. But awesome seasonal appropriate wines. Then we are adding release in January. This is key for a couple of reasons. This is going to be the estate reds. So then we're looking at Petit Verdot, Tannat, Petit Syrah, Crooked Run, and when we have it, and we will the first time, the late harvest Tannat. So this will be this coming up January. That's going to be when we are looking at those like deep, dark, heavier reds, very seasonally appropriate to come out right there in the winter time. And also going from September to January is 4 months. And I'd always said that when those estate reds were coming out at the beginning of September, they were barely ready, and they were so much better by the beginning of October, and they were really way better by January. So January, you're going to get them when they're at their best. Much cooler situation. So you won't necessarily see that crazy evolution over that little window of time. We'll get them to the ideal spot, so you're getting the best of the best when things come out. Makes me really happy. I think that's most of the concept that I wanted to go through for today, is capturing the terroir differences, wines that are coming out, changes coming up. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll hopefully see you in the tasting room sometime soon.